Κυρίες και κύριοι, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, welcome to Athens, Greece, to the European Regional Science Association Conference. We will be happy to have you with us these next few days, and we will be happy to exchange ideas and experiences with all of you on the critical issues of regional science, which covers a broad range of subjects, and it's at the forefront of contemporary concerns at various levels. So before we get started, I would like to invite certain people just to open up our inaugurating session. And first of all, I would like to ask Ms. Christina Litrivi, who's a representative of the Greek Parliament.
Καλώς ορίσατε στην Ελλάδα. Καλώς ορίσατε στο 64ο συνέδριο της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης για την Περιφερειακή Επιστήμη. Επιτρέψτε μου όμως να μιλήσω στα αγγλικά, καθώς οι σύνεδροι είστε από 65 χώρες του κόσμου. Οπότε, dear distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly an honor for me, on behalf of the President of the Hellenic Parliament, to convey a warm greeting to the 64th International Conference on Regional Science in Turbulent Times. Indeed, we live in a time of great new challenges: climate change, geopolitical tensions, social inequalities, and rapid technological transformation with AI at spear point, all demand that we search for new answers, that we build a development model which is resilient, sustainable, and above all, inclusive. In this endeavor, the regional dimension is essential. Every region has its own identity, its own strengths, but also its own needs. This applies not only to the economy, but equally to education and employment. Education that is tailored to the characteristics of each region, and skills that respond to the needs of local labor markets are key to reducing inequalities, offering real opportunities to young people, and keeping valuable human capital rooted in its communities. What is the role of the science of regional studies in this venture? It can provide us with vital tools and methodologies. It can open pathways of cooperation and innovation and help us build fairer and more resilient societies. Closing, on behalf of the Hellenic Parliament, I warmly congratulate the President and the members of the Organizing Committee for this important initiative, and I'm confident that your discussions and conclusions the next few days will contribute meaningfully to our common goal, a future that is more resilient, more just, and more hopeful for all. I wish utmost success with the conference proceedings. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Mr. Yannis Georgisas, CEO of the Athens Development Authority, a representative of the city of Athens, since we are at the center of Athens.
Γεια σας κυρίες και κύριοι. I continue in English, even though we are here in Greece, okay, in Athens. Dear conference delegate, participants and friends, welcome to Athens. We are especially happy to host you on our historic city. The presence of so many important figures from the field of science and politics is a great honor of us. I would like to extend the greetings of the Mayor of Athens, Haris Doukas, and on his behalf, welcome you to an iconic landmark of Athens, the Zappeion Hall. Zappeion built in 1988. This building is linked with our city's identity. Today, it serves as a conference and exhibition center, while historically it was one of the first venues constructed for the revival of the Olympic Games. Develop Athens, which I have the honor of leading, is the main operational arm of the city of Athens. It contributes to the development of the city program, which aims to transform Athens into a sustainable and energy-neutral city. The city of Athens participates in the initiative of the 100 decarbonized cities, and through our agency, we're implementing many initiatives and projects, such as the Sustainable Tourism Observatory. We also finalized the planning and studies for the installation of a network of cycle lanes and the municipal transport system. Thank you. We welcome you once again and wish you a pleasant stay and great success in the conference proceeding. I think you are very happy because the weather is not hot and this is a good period to be in Athens. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Mr. Yannis Selimis, representative of the region of Attica, which is the broader region where Athens is located.
Μάλλον εγώ θα πρωτοτυπήσω γιατί θα μιλήσω στα ελληνικά. Καλησπέρα σε όλους, κυρίες και κύριοι. Με ιδιαίτερη χαρά αλλά και τιμή σας καλωσορίζουμε εκ μέρους του Περιφερειάρχη Αττικής, του κυρίου Νίκου Χαρδαλιά, στην Αθήνα, στην καρδιά της Περιφέρειας Αττικής, που φέτος φιλοξενεί το 64ο Διεθνές Συνέδριο της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης Περιφερειακής Ανάπτυξης. Μια διοργάνωση, κύριε καθηγητά, κύριε Ψυχάρη, που πραγματικά μετατρέπει την πόλη σε ένα παγκόσμιο κέντρο επιστημονικού διαλόγου για την περιφερειακή ανάπτυξη. Επιτρέψτε μου να πω ότι σε μια εποχή διαρκών μεταβολών, σύνθετων προκλήσεων, από την κλιματική αλλαγή μέχρι τις κοινωνικές ανισότητες, η ενίσχυση της περιφερειακής και κοινωνικής ανθεκτικότητας για μας όλους στην περιφέρεια Αττικής αποτελεί στρατηγική προτεραιότητα. Συγχαίρουμε λοιπόν θερμά το Πάντιο Πανεπιστήμιο, την τοπική οργανωτική επιτροπή και όλους τους συμμετέχοντες για την εξαιρετική αυτή διοργάνωση που είμαστε βέβαιοι ότι θα φέρει νέες ιδέες, νέες συνεργασίες για ένα βιώσιμο και ανθεκτικό μέλλον. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ. Καλή επιτυχία.
Our next speaker is Mr. Andrea Conte from the European Commission, GRC.
Hi, good afternoon, distinguished attendees, speakers, and nice colleagues. Only a few words from my side. First of all, to express our deep thank to the colleagues in the European Regional Science Association for the very fruitful collaboration we had also this year between the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, in particular our team, the Territorial Data and Modeling project, and the local organizers at the European Secretariat of ERSA. So thank you, Professor Capello. Thank you, Professor Psychiaris. From our side, as a joint research center, as the scientific service of the European Commission, we value a lot the collaboration and the exchanges that opportunities like the ERSA Congress in this wonderful city offers to us also this year. We interpret our role by mentioning three major elements in our daily activities: anticipation, integration of knowledge, and policy impact. We count on you on those three elements. We know that there is a wealth of extremely useful knowledge there. We are here to learn from you, to use your knowledge, and to altogether contribute to establishing a more fruitful link between science and the policymaking arena. If we all succeed in this, we will have better policies, more transparent policies, and more effective policies for our citizens. Thank you very much. I wish you a great Congress.
Next, we would like to invite the rector of the Pantheon University, which is the hosting institution, Professor Christina Koulouri.
Kalispera. Dear guests, dear participants of the 64th ERSA Congress, I am delighted to welcome you to the Zappeion Megaron on the occasion of this prestigious conference. Pantheon University is deeply honored to host this international gathering in a venue that stands as a symbol of Greek benefaction and culture, bridging the present with the past of the Greek capital city. The choice of this historic building is no coincidence. The Zappeion Megaron, brought into being through the benefaction of Evangelos Zappas, a rich diaspora Greek merchant, exemplifies how love for one's country and a spirit of generosity can create institutions that serve culture and education. In a similar spirit, Pantheon University owes its existence to the vision and benefaction of two enlightened individuals, Georgios Frangoudis and Alexandros Pandos. It's from Pandos that we call our university Pantheon. This unwavering commitment to education led to the foundation of the School of Political Sciences, the Greek Sciences Po, in 1927, which evolved into the Pantheon University of today, fostering political, social, and economic knowledge in Greece. Hosting you here bridges the historical significance of this place with the modern scientific and social contributions of Pantheon University, as both Zappeion and Pantheon share a common value: a firm belief in the power of enlightened knowledge and a dedication to the common good. Pantheon University has long been a cornerstone of public life in Greece. It places education, critical thinking, and research at the service of society. With its 4 schools and 9 departments, as well as an extensive network of research centers, institutes, and laboratories, the university maintains a steadfast commitment to the social mission of public higher education and the advancement of the social sciences. The Pantheon academic community, through its dedication to interdisciplinarity, international collaboration, and strong ties with society, stands at the forefront of high-quality teaching and recognized research. Since its foundation, our university has been a vibrant hub of intellectual and scientific innovation, pioneering advances in regional sciences. Its programs, interdisciplinary approach, and research connect theory closely with practice, equipping students with the tools to analyze social, political, and economic challenges. In particular, the Department of Economic and Regional Development exemplifies this pioneering vision. Since 1989, it has offered comprehensive training in economics with a specialization in regional sciences, highlighting development not only as an economic phenomenon, but also as a social, political, and environmental process. In closing, the 64th ERSA Congress offers an exceptional opportunity for dialogue, experience sharing, and the promotion of innovative approaches in regional sciences, linking scientific knowledge with public policy and social progress. I am confident that this Congress will enrich our understanding and strengthen collaborations on both national and international levels. I would like to congratulate the organizers for a fascinating program, and especially my colleague and friend at Pantheon University, Professor Yannis Psycharis, who is the soul and the spirit of the whole endeavor. During the following days, let's try to be inspired by the blue sky of Athens and its legacy of political thought and artistic creation. I warmly welcome you to Pantheon University, probably tomorrow, and I wish you a productive, creative, and inspiring conference, but also pleasant social moments. Welcome. Καλώς ορίσατε.
Next, we would like to invite our President of the European Regional Science Association, Professor Roberta Capello.
So, Kalispera also from my side. Dear representatives of the national and local governments, dear rector, dear colleagues and friends, on behalf of the European Regional Science Association, I would like to welcome you to the 64th ERSA conference. The ERSA conference has always been a very important event for all of us. And this is because we are sure that every year we can share our scientific idea and we can have ideas from others, but especially we are sure that we are going to meet old friends. So the social part of the conference has always been an important aspect. Last but not least, we are always in wonderful places. And this year, this is not an exception. We are in Athens, in a wonderful city with Greek history representing our ancient Greek stories, and this makes everything even more exciting. We have an impressive number of participants, more than 930 participants from 53 countries. I think that this is for a European conference really a great success. Italy is ranking first as number of participants. Why is this important? Because I know Italian people very well. They move if the place is nice, is wonderful. And this is why we know that we are in a wonderful place. We have 183 Italian here, followed by 80 Greek participants, and then other 51 countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, Brazil, not only Europe. So for ERSA, this is a real great success. And for this success, we have to thank the local organizing committee. And in particular, Professor Yannis Psikaris, who is also the vice president of ERSA. So he plays a double role here, a double hat. And I know that for 1 year, he has put a lot of effort in making this event successful. You have seen the program, 28 parallel sessions, which is an impressive number of papers presented with important themes like cohesion policies, revision of cohesion policies. We have national disasters, regional competitiveness and cohesion. All our main themes are there, coupled with the new issues that are here, the new geopolitical problems that we encounter, new trade relationships and their effects on our regional growth. So I'm sure we will go home with more than we have come with, new ideas, new friends, and especially with a wonderful memory of this building and of the Pantheon University and of all the city. We look forward also to the social dinner. Again, we are going to be in a wonderful place, and I look forward to it. So I wish you 4 wonderful days in this exceptional city of Athens. Thank you very much.
And our next speaker is Yannis Psicharis, Professor Yannis Psicharis, who is the president of the Greek Regional Science Association. Yannis.
Okay, so this is General Director, Ms. Representative from the Greek government, dear Rector, dear representatives of local government, dear colleagues, dear friends. I would like warmly to welcome you all in Athens, to welcome in Greece, for the purpose of this gathering of the European Regional Science Association. For us, it is a great honor to have you here. And we have made the most we can in order to create the environment that will enable the scientific interaction and the personal interaction, and I could say enjoyment of staying with us in Athens. I don't know if it is visible to see some words I have written in the in a presentation. The first that I would like to say is that Zappeion is a historic place, has many meanings, and we are not choosing Zappeion not just for these historical moments. We are here to compare 2 periods. The early period of the 1980, when Greece signed in this place the entrance agreement to the European Economic Community, and to compare what's going on up to now in this very important dream of the European economic integration. The decade of 80s was a decade of prospects. But it seems today we are facing other important challenges that make us, and this, especially being in this place, to reconsider. So, this conference of already 930 registered people, in-person participation only, from more than 60 countries, with 97 special sessions based on research projects. I have to highlight here the majority of people are also members of the research community that is undertaken at the European level. Plenty of young scientists and enormous young scientist participation. I would like to mention here that young scientists and PhD students represent the highest percentage of group in this conference. One out of 3 is a young scientist and PhD student. This shows, with 140 papers, distinguished keynote speakers, creates a unique environment for fruitful scientific interaction and communication. The rich social program will complement the intensive works And the post-Congress tours offer a cultural, a relaxing opportunity to visit areas of archaeological and natural beauty of Greece. As I mentioned before, the 64th ERSA Congress is organized in a place where Greece signed the agreement for entering the European Economic Community. This historical moment of the 80s could ask us to raise where we stand today in the process of European integration. And since we are very much interested in integration with cohesion and development, this is a long-standing issue that today it is even more important, and I would like to thank Themis Christophidou for being here, and we are very much looking forward to the presentation for the future prospects of the cohesion policy. Being here, I would like to mention also that's the third time, Mr. President, that we are organizing the European Conference. The first one was organized again at Pantheon with Professor Consolas, and we have a memoir for Professor Consolas. He passed away 2 years ago, and at the closing we have a short reference to the contribution of Professor Consolas to ERSA administration. The first one, it was in 1981. At that time, I was a PhD student. The second one was in Volos with Professor Kokosis and with Roberta as a keynote speaker. In between, there was another event, a bilateral event organized for the French-speaking section with the Greek-speaking section. This was organized in 1917. Andres was at that time keynote speaker, and Philip, who is here somewhere also, had been a long time friends and colleagues that we go and support together these activities, and I thank them a lot. And today, in 2025, we are in this area where, as I told, it is one of significant importance. I'm not going to take long, however, it is tempting being here to make a reference, something that it is also shown in the title of the Congress. The title of the Congress is explicitly related to contemporary challenges that people and places are facing today, and how regional science can reflect and interact with these challenges. The economic crisis, the refugee crisis, and the pandemic, and also the climate change are some representative examples of the unprecedented intensity and prolonged duration of the sequential crisis that we have been experiencing. The field of regional science is made up of a dynamic association of scientists and policymakers who are engaged in the understanding, analyzing, and proposing policy measures that will lead to a more resilient, inclusive future for people and places across Europe and beyond. I'm not going to go further with details which most of you already know, since they are on the site. I will also tell you that we had a large number of special sessions based on research projects. As regards the participation, the Italian friends and colleagues is the first group of people that participate in this conference. 27%. 27 is from Italy. However, we can see here Greece, France, UK, EU, but also New Zealand, Tunisia, Turkey, and United States. This is the issue. If we can see here the map, we will see on a map, which is also offered on the site, we will see the participants, and as we can see also, the PhD student and young researcher amount to the largest part. Tomorrow, we are continuing to Pantheon University. And tomorrow in the afternoon, the rector of Pantheon University is offering a get-together party. Today, after the keynote presentation by Themis and chairing this session and moderator and having the role of moderator Andres Rodriguez Pous, we will offer a welcome drink. We can see here the keynote speakers, Themis Christophidou, Jean-François Tis, who will also be awarded the Golden Medal of RSAI, and Michael Storper. And for this year, we have arranged for tomorrow in the afternoon a meeting with Paul Krugman, a very distinguished person, with whom we are going to have a discussion on current issues. There will not be a typical presentation. It will be a discussion about recent challenges. The social program and the gala dinner will be offered in another place, in Phaleron. It is the Stavros Niarchos Foundation, a cultural center which also hosts the Opera House and the National Gallery. So it is of significant importance. The post-conference excursions, I don't want to go further on this. Last words of thank goes to many people and institutions. We have a generous support from the Hellenic Parliament. We would like to thank the Hellenic Parliament for taking this event under the auspices. And it was not just the symbolic move, it was also the practical support in every respect. And we would like to thank the President of the Greek Parliament and also the President of the Committee for Regional Development of the Hellenic Parliament. We also want to recognize the generous support of the Athens, City of Athens, and the Mayor of Athens, and we had with them, we had also access to this area, and we thank you for this, and also for the fact that we utilized the facility we have to promote Athens, and it was something that we didn't even know at that time, and I hope you have found very useful that this is Athens information that has been provided to all participants. Then we would like also to thank the General Secretary of Aegean and Maritime Policy and the European Commission and the GRC for the specific support we received and collaboration and very active participation with many respects in this conference. Finally, I would like to thank the institutions that supported this event, the rector of Pantheon Panepistemio, who is also the co-organizer of this event. We are hosting this event. However, the rector of Pantheon University was very much positive towards this event, and I thank the rector very much. I thank very much Roberta for the very useful discussions, collaboration, and sharing the same spirit and at the same time the same responsibility of organizing something very critical, the fact that we have achieved to organize one of the biggest conferences ever organized. It is not just an achievement, it is something that is for benefit of the association. But of course, what's the more beneficial is for the people of regional science. Closing, I would like to thank the volunteers and the members of the organizing committee. They had a very strong commitment, and you can see in the preparations, even from the preparations, and also we will see the next days that these young people share with us and exhibit something that will follow them in the future. University is not only teaching class, and conference, as Andres said, is not only slides. It is more than that. It is a community, and we enjoy the community, the benefits of sharing, the benefits of the community. I am wishing you a very good stay, fruitful collaboration, and enjoy stay in Athens with us. Thank you very much and welcome.
Kalispera, agapiti fili. Good evening, dear friends. My name is Andres Rodriguez Porce. Most of you know me, and I know many of you, but I don't know a lot of you, so that's a very good sign. As Yanis was saying just a moment ago, this conference is not just slides. It's a moment for exchanging ideas and creating a community and putting the ideas that are going to be the shakers and breakers of regional science in the future. But today we're not here about talking, well, by the way, congratulations to the organizers, to ERSA, through Roberta Capello, for being able to bring so many people and so many people of high quality to Athens, but also to the local organizing committee and Yanis Sigaris for his fantastic work and for his pulling power in bringing all of us together. But you're not here to listen to me or to listen to the praises of ERSA. You're here to listen to one of the most powerful voices in regional development, I would say in development across the world, Themis Christophidou, who has had the generosity of actually cutting short her holidays just to be here, which talks about, first, that someone of her caliber who has a small amount of holidays is so willing to come to see you, maybe because we are good and we are an audience worth talking to. Let me just say a few words to introduce Themis, because I think Most of you know her, but for those of you who don't know her, she is the Director General of Regional and Urban Development in the European Commission, the highest civil servant, not politician, in charge of the largest development policy in the world. Born in Famagusta in Cyprus, she has a long relationship with this country, with Greece. She studied here at Zappeion Polytechnical University, and she became a civil engineer. And for more than almost a quarter of a century, not more, almost a quarter of a century, she has been working at the European Commission in different guises. Before being Director General for regional and urban policy, she was Director General of Education, Youth, Culture, and Sport. And she has held a lot of different positions, including several times being head of cabinet of different commissioners. But the most important thing is that if there's someone who can really influence development in Europe, it's her. I've been working with her in different guises, especially since she became Director General in September 2023, when I was head of the high-level group for the future of cohesion policy. And I know that she is a woman that commands respect, but she pervades leadership, and she's always impressive in her interventions. And today she's going to talk to us about what has the European Union regional development policy, I repeat, the largest development policy in the world, achieved, in a title that I'm going to read because I might forget otherwise, which is Firm Roots, Strategic Agility, the lasting impact of EU cohesion policy. Start preparing your questions, because there will be questions to her in the end. But just one reminder, the questions are not interventions, so I'll stop any questions that do not start by why, when, how, or to what extent, or similar. So start preparing, and now, Themis, the floor is yours.
No pressure, Andres. After this introduction, I don't know how I can live up to the expectation that you have created. Indeed, I cut short my short holidays, but for this country, for this city, for this setup, and for this audience, it's probably worth it more than anything else. Good evening, everybody. Dear President, dear Roberta, dear Vice President Psycharis, dear Rector of the Pantheon University, distinguished members of ERSA, dear colleagues and friends. It is a great pleasure, and I made this promise to come, I think, a year ago, more or less, to open the 64th Annual Congress, and to do so here in Athens, this city that reminds us that ideas endure when they are tested, debated, and put to work for the public good. This year is symbolic for cohesion policy. We mark 50 years of the creation of the European Regional Development Fund, the ERDF. In Greek, we call all this ESPA. Half a century of growth and of firm roots. Anniversaries invite both reflection and resolve. This point in time asks us not only to take stock of what cohesion policy has achieved, but to consider how it must shape Europe's present and Europe's future. When the ERDF was created in 1975, in a community of just 9 member states, it embodied a simple but powerful idea that Europe prospers together or Europe doesn't prosper at all. True prosperity cannot rest on widening disparities. Today, in a union of 27, the imperative remains every bit as strong, arguably stronger. This was the central message of the 9th Cohesion Report and of the high-level report of the expert group chaired by Professor Andres Rodriguez Poze. The history of the ERDF proves the point. When the ERDF was launched in 1975, it was an instrument with a single purpose: to help reduce regional imbalances. The real turning point came in 1988, when the EU structural funds were brought under a single cohesion policy, with multi-annual programming, strategic orientation, and the core principles of partnership and additionality, shifting towards a genuine development policy delivered through multi-level governance. Through the 2000s, cohesion policy absorbed the lessons of endogenous growth and innovation economics. Under the Lisbon era and beyond, objectives moved from equity alone to equity and competitiveness, with earmarking for R&D and innovation, for climate action in 2007-2013, and a further tightening of thematic priorities in 2014-2020. This broadened the policy from funding bricks and roads to building capabilities, skills, research capacity, and firm dynamism alongside infrastructure. Intellectually, the policy embraced the place-based turn. The Barca report, another Italian, in 2009 crystallized a shift away from one-size-fits-all, arguing that effectiveness depends on local institutions, on capabilities and networks, while new economic geography and agglomeration theory explained why integration can widen gaps unless we invest in lagging places enabling conditions. This debate, place-based versus place-neutral, did not remain academic. It shaped programming choices and governance design. Evaluation practice evolved in lockstep. Early work tested convergence mechanically. Newer research brought spatial econometrics to capture spillovers and regional general equilibrium models to trace channels and second-round effects. Lessons learned through these evaluations have been codified into policy design. Target preconditions for prosperity and convergence, not just assets. Returns are higher when investments complement a region's territorial capital and institutions, pairing infrastructure with skills, business support, and institutional capacity rather than funding concrete alone. Complement hard with soft spending. Large infrastructure pays off when coupled with R&D, SME, human capital measures. Diversified portfolios tend to yield more resilient growth paths. Designed for heterogeneity, programming now differentiates by development level and territorial type, urban, rural, border, islands, outermost, rather than assuming uniform responses. Strengthen institutions and learn by doing. The quality of government is a prime mediator of impact. That is why capacity building, partnership, and iterative evaluation have moved from afterthoughts to first-order priorities. In short, over 5 decades, cohesion policy has kept its compass: convergence, solidarity, partnership, while continuously upgrading its toolkit in light of theory and evidence. It is this combination, firm roots with strategic agility, that positions the policy to meet today's transitions and shocks, and to keep improving with the knowledge generated by this community. Ladies and gentlemen, understanding EU cohesion policy requires delving into post-World War II Europe, when the architects of the European Union envisioned a unified continent in the aftermath of repeated conflicts, costing millions of lives. Cohesion policy was the European response to address very large disparities among increasingly economically integrated member states, with the objective of fostering convergence. This has been recognized by the Reflection Group chaired by Professor Rodriguez Pose and the 9th Cohesion Report, but also in two influential reports published last year, the Enrico Letta and the Mario Draghi reports. Taken together, all together, these reports underline the inextricable link between single market, competitiveness, and territorial cohesion. Indeed, from the outset, the European single market was designed with an awareness of its potential differential effects on workers, companies, and regions, and with a clear goal to address them. And here I pay tribute to Jacques Delors. This is why cohesion policy was put in place as a fundamental element of the single market, not outside of this framework. The importance of social and territorial cohesion is also recognized in the Mario Draghi report. Social cohesion, Draghi says, is not just about providing welfare, but ensuring that every European citizen can participate in and benefit from a push towards higher competitiveness. Undoubtedly, the most visible example of the impact of cohesion policy for the whole continent is that of EU enlargement. During the last 20 years, the average GDP per capita in the member states that joined the EU in 2004 increased from around 50% to around 80% of EU average. However, across the EU as a whole, regional disparities in GDP per head did narrow significantly only up until 2009. Afterwards, they stabilized. Over the past decade, we have seen that several less developed and transition regions seem to have become stuck in a development trap, a concept that Professor Rodriguez Pose has helped explore and communicate on. This has contributed to increased political discontent and a decline in support for democratic values in the European Union. Escaping from a development trap is not only about investment and is not only about reforms. It requires coordinated action on multiple fronts, on governance, on education, on social inclusion, on innovation ecosystem, on digital and transport infrastructure, on business environment, tailored to the level of development and characteristics of each specific region or macro-region. Cohesion and competitiveness are two sides of the same coin. There cannot be the one without the other. Distinguished members, today we meet under the conference banner, Regional Science in Turbulent Times. The turbulence is real and tangible. Geoeconomic fragmentation, an enduring Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, the prospect of a sharp increase of climate-induced disasters, accelerating technological change, and of course the demographic shifts. That is why the theme today captures the essence of cohesion policy's journey. For me, the theme I've chosen speaks of firm roots that have guided cohesion policy for half a century. Strategic agility, the policy's capacity to respond to territorial needs, emerging crises, and adapt to Europe's most pressing contemporary challenges. Cohesion policy provides both. It invests in the basic conditions that underpin long-run productivity and inclusion, skills, infrastructure, innovation capacity, institutional capacity. And it has learned to adapt, to channel resources swiftly when shocks strike, without losing its place-based compass. It has never been a substitute for national policy. It is a European amplifier of scale, of continuity across cycles, of cross-border spillovers that no member state can internalize alone, as shown by recent academic work carried out by DG Regio, the department I have the honor to lead. We will soon publish the Commission's ex-post evaluation of ERDF and Cohesion Fund for 2014-2020, and also the midterm evaluation of the policy for 2021-2027. Telegraphically, the evidence says cohesion policy crowds in investment. It complements rather than replaces national expenditure, and it sustains continuity across programming periods. Also, it targets territorial needs and builds resilience, especially in less developed regions. And its EU-level financing supports equity and convergence across the European Union. For those of you who like touchstones, during 2014-2020, 2.5 million SMEs received support. 24 million children benefited from improved childcare and education infrastructure. Over 66 billion went to climate-relevant investment, and 8 million households gained better broadband, and we can go on. Beyond numbers, these are investments in productivity, in opportunity, and European added value. And yes, you can see them here too in Athens, where one small example, the extension of the metro, one of Europe's largest cohesion projects today, has transformed daily life for millions of residents and visitors alike. Our evaluations do not claim perfection. They recognize that direction and design matter, and the policy is continuously learning. And since 2020, cohesion policy has been stress-tested by the pandemic, first of all, by an energy crisis, by the cascading effects of war. 3 lessons stand out. Flexibility has value when it protects strategy. Temporary adjustments worked because they were tethered to long-term objectives, not ad hoc detours. 2, place-based capacity is a resilience asset. Regions that could mobilize partnerships and administrative capacity adjusted faster and with better targeting. And 3rd lesson, complementarity between cohesion and other funds needs to be designed, not assumed, ensuring territorial reach and avoiding duplication. These lessons are amongst those that guide our proposals for the next chapter. On the 16th of July, the European Commission put forward its proposal for the next multi-annual financial framework, MFF for the users. The adoption of the proposal marks the start of a process, a start. As you know, it will now be analyzed, debated, negotiated by the European Parliament and the Council. The Commission's proposal introduces the national and regional partnership plans, aiming to bring together EU funds implemented by member states and regions under one coordinated strategy. More than 450 billion euros streamlined under a single rule book, delivered through national and regional partnerships. In these plans, cohesion policy shall remain firmly rooted in the treaty objectives, with increased strategic agility to address emerging challenges while preserving its place-based, partnership-driven approach. As Executive Vice President for Cohesion and Reforms, Raffaele Fitto said when presenting the proposal to the European Parliament in mid-July, the proposal reflects elements that emerged from the extensive dialogue we have had with local and regional authorities, the European Parliament, and the Committee of the Regions. These include setting cohesion as a clear legal basis and a global objective of the future national and regional partnership plans. It foresees that the plans shall maintain the 3 categories of regions: less developed, transition, more developed regions, and require that resources are allocated to each of these categories. Importantly, minimum allocations for less developed regions have been preserved, with at least 218 billion euros. This means benefiting from the strong investment funding they have today. The proposal introduces targeted measures for cities, rural areas, eastern border regions, islands, and outermost regions. It provides guarantees that regional authorities remain fully responsible for negotiating and implementing their own cohesion programs, and that when reforms are not implemented at national level, regions will not be penalized, nor refused access to funding for something that is out of their control and none of their doing. In these guarantees, the Commission sought to respect the multi-level governance and partnership principles that have been fundamental to our policy. These plans must be implemented in partnership between the Commission and national and regional authorities, involving stakeholders at all levels, as it is the case today in shared management. In addition, it aims to put in place the strongest safeguards to date: zero tolerance for fraud or conflict of interest, and full respect for the Charter of Fundamental Rights. Lastly, the MFF proposal has been designed to address today's challenges, but also to help us prepare for those still to come. For this, a financial flexibility is introduced through dedicated financial reserves within the plans of up to 25%, along with a mandatory midterm review. This new architecture aims for regions to preserve the predictability to plan multi-year investments, flexibility to respond when circumstances change, to have voice in program design and implementation, and to benefit from more coherence across instruments that affect territorial development. For citizens and businesses, it pursues faster and more accessible support, fewer administrative hurdles, and investments in modern infrastructure that reduces costs, enabling SMEs to compete and families to benefit from Europe's growth. Ladies and gentlemen, ERSA has been always a crucible where new evidence challenges old assumptions. I wish that we continue working together in a concrete, practical, open way, so that the academic community can help us advance in the current complex historical context. For this, I propose to work together on 4 specific areas. First, on targeting and equity. Help us improve how we measure vulnerability and opportunity at regional and local levels, combining administrative data, satellite imagery, and new indicators of exposure to shocks, climate, demographic, technological, and also capacity to adapt. We need metrics that are policy operational, not merely descriptive. Second, institutional capacity as an investment. Treat administrative capability and delivery systems as outcomes we can measure and improve. Time to project, project selection quality, learning curves, and the returns to capacity building. Third, spillovers and networks. Map and quantify cross-border spillovers and interregional linkages in value chain and knowledge networks. EU-level financing is justified by these effects, so let us measure them better and use them to prioritize. Fourth, open data and replication. We will continue to expand the Cohesion Open Data Platform and our Cohesio. Many of you already use these resources, and we want to create, together with you, shared documentation standards, version data sets, and replicable code to shorten the distance between analysis and action. In turbulent times, this is not a luxury to be ahead of the curve. It's a necessity. In short, I ask 3 things from your community. Scrutinize our methods, our claims, our trade-offs. Help us prioritize. Evidence cannot fund everything, So help us choose and build with us. Join our efforts to produce data, indicators, and evaluations that are useful for managing authorities across the EU and regions on the ground to take their decisions. Your analysis and your recommendations are indispensable. They shape choices, they challenge assumptions, and they ensure our policies are effective, targeted, and future-proof. I will conclude. 50 years on, the case for cohesion policy is not nostalgia. It is stronger than ever. It is necessity, economic, because a competitive Europe needs broad-based productivity. Social, because opportunity must be accessible across places. And political, because shared prosperity, as Professor Rodriguez has extensively shown with his work on the geography of discontent, prosperity is the foundation of our Europe's legitimacy. The next chapter, through the national and regional partnership plans, shall deepen our roots and expand our agility. As I said earlier, and as both Executive Vice President Raffaele Fitto and Budget Commissioner Piotr Serafin underlined in their presentations on the EU budget a couple of weeks ago, our proposal is the first step, not the last one. It marks the beginning of a legislative process with the European Parliament and the Council, who will now debate it thoroughly. So you have an important role to play in these discussions, as researchers, as academics, as scientists, and those of you that are also policymakers. Here in Athens, the birthplace of so many enduring ideas, I invite you to work with us so that what we discuss in conference halls takes roots in our regions as projects, as better services, as new firms, as cleaner energy, as faster trains, as opportunities for our children, for our young people to stay and thrive in the place they want to call their home. I wish you a very successful Congress, and I look forward to a continued dialogue in the months ahead. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Themis, for a very interesting and challenging presentation, not avoiding any issues. As I told you at the beginning, we have time now for questions, so please raise your hand if you have a question. And we're going to start over there. Just start by saying your name, your affiliation, and then your question, and try to keep it as a question. So, can anyone? If not, I'll go myself. Oh, yeah, but I'll...
Okay, thank you. My name is Artem Korzenievich from Dresden, Germany. Thank you very much for the presentation. You stressed a lot regional competitiveness in your talk. My question is, how do you see the future of ecological sustainability as a factor in regional development? Is there a risk of ecological dimension becoming less important in these turbulent times?
In the interest of time, we're going to try to combine at least two questions. Anyone else wants to ask a question? Yes, go ahead over here. Annie?
Thanks, Ms. Christophidou. Thanks, Andres. You said that nothing was missed.
Annie, you
but
have
what
to,
about...
Annie, you have to introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Annie Toubaji, and I'm very much concerned about cohesion, but from the point of view, what is the root of the problem? The attitude to perceive ourselves as one and the desire to be so. Don't you think that culture and this attitude of togetherness, attitude of one identity, is something that we have missed to do since the beginning? The European Union was too careful, and maybe there was a moment when it had to press much more on creating a common identity. And now this is felt. You are very right that the Regional Development Fund has done so much. Wales has benefited so much, and they were the ones who voted to exit from this. So this is a big elephant in the room that stumbles cohesion. Can we do something about it?
Thank you. Themis, the floor is yours.
Yes, I start with the first question. Is there a risk? Well, there is a risk for just about everything, isn't there? Is there a risk that, that environmental sustainability pays the price for other priorities, is your question, if I understand it well? Yes. I think it's something that we are witnessing every day. We have a lot of new priorities and a lot of competing priorities. And I think from the pandemic, from COVID onwards, this has accelerated, and we seem to be living in a permanent state of crisis and of new priorities that are many times compatible with each other, but often conflicting with each other. And so choices have to be made. And given that the resources, mainly budget, but not only, are always a lot more limited than the needs, we all the time have to make choices. So of course there is a risk, and I think that one of the elephants in the room today is defense, because we are all feeling more and more threatened by a potential war. This becomes more and more high on the agenda of a political class, and so this is a new priority that also has to be taken into account. So the risks are there, and I think the tricky thing and the $1 million answer to a question like this is how we will manage to do at the same time, to serve at the same time these priorities, and to do what people like to say, to do more with less, but it's a very complicated exercise, of course. I think this also means that we have to try to pull funding capabilities that are not only of the public sector, but to bring together the private sector, and to work a lot on the corporate social responsibility, on investors seeing their interest in joining forces, because no public budget can deal with all this. So we have to combine all the possible sources of funding, and also of know-how and of human capital, in order to serve at the same time all these priorities that are more and more pressing, and that require higher and higher resources. So it's part of the exercise, and of course it's also a part of the needs that we have to see input from you on how to help us influence the policy making in this direction. So to come now to the other discussion, in a way you gave part of the answer yourself by referring to Wales. I remember how astonished I was that a couple of days after the vote on Brexit, people from the Wales were contacting us and saying, but structural funds will continue to come, no? We were amazed that that can be such an illusion, that we say no to Europe, but Europe will still be around. I don't know how many politicians there are in the room, and I will probably make them unhappy, but I have observed for many years that a lot of this is also due to the fact that it's very easy for a politician to everything that is done well in their region to say this is me, and everything that is a bit more tricky to say this is Europe. Just 2 years ago, when I started this job, we had a conference with the Committee of the Regions, so the representatives of regions and cities in Brussels. And the moderator asked them 3 questions. The first was, do you feel that cohesion policy has benefited your region? A lot of arms raised. The second was, do you have expectation that you will continue doing this in the future? A lot of arms raised. The third question was, do your citizens know that most of the investments in your region come from Europe, and especially from cohesion policy. I could count the arms with my one hand. It was, you wanted to cry, because these were the representatives of the local and regional governance. So if they haven't made this known, I don't know who will. And in this case, Greece is a good example, actually, because every turn you take, you will see a sign that says funded by ESPA or by the EU, whatever. But I do go to countries where you don't see a sign, or you see a sign behind a pillar, in the basement. And actually, it can be a school, a hospital, a museum, a metro, a motorway. And this has been funded to 80, 90% by the EU. And the politician that cuts the ribbon says, here, I've offered you this wonderful project. I'm afraid this has made the biggest damage on all this, and on the sense of belonging. And I think we need a lot of work to get this sense of belonging back. And the proof is all these Eurosceptic, or even worse, parties that are emerging in Europe, especially in areas where they have benefited the most. And the Welsh example of yours is such a good one.
Thank you very much, Themis. There's a question coming from over there.
Good evening. My name is Julius Heinecke. I'm UNESCO shareholder on culture policy in Hildesheim in Germany. Thank you very much for your inspiring talk. I was wondering which role culture and the arts play in your vision on cohesion policy, because you mentioned belonging and so on, and perhaps you can say a few words on this. Thank you so much.
Yes, and the next question, Roberta. I'll just, there's one over there.
Well, thank you very much, Roberta Cappello. Thank you for your inspiring talk. I have a question regarding the change that is going now on cohesion policy management. How can we reconcile the 30 years of regional policies with the idea of this national-regional relationship and the national planning? How can you think that these could fit, the two of them? Thank you.
So on culture, well, as the professor said earlier, I was Director General for culture for 5.5 years before this job. So if you're looking for a big supporter of culture and arts, you have one in front of you. The European Union takes a lot of good decisions. Very occasionally takes less good ones. And about 15 years ago, it was of the opinion, I think also influenced by the financial crisis of the time, that culture is not a money-producing operation. It's not something that creates economic wealth. So there was a decision that we should, leave culture funding to others. So for a long time, culture was less taken care of through cohesion policy. But I think in the meantime, we have understood that this was a wrong decision. And by the way, if you take it even from the economic point of view, the cultural and creative industries of Europe are creating something like 4% of the GDP. So it's also a massive economic sector. So we've come back to our senses, if I can say it like that. Now, I think it's, again, there is a sense of belonging, and we cannot be saying united in diversity and this being an empty motto. We have to believe in it, and the richness of Europe is based a lot on that. Also because innovation and creativity is a source of development and of growth. So I think we are returning to seeing all this much clearer. At the same time, as we were discussing earlier, the priorities are so many and conflicting. So it's going to be a struggle. But the cultural world in Brussels is a quite active one. So I'm happy that they are making their voices loud. I think that education world also needs to speak loud. Madam Rector, the universities and the schools also need support, because this is our future. If we miss the education generations in terms of education, I don't know how we will make it further. So again, many priorities that we have to serve. We have to be smart and find a way to do it at the same time. Dear Roberta, the national plans was the first idea, and then it has evolved to national and regional partnership plans. So I want to read in this that we will be very much in the same philosophy and DNA of cohesion policy, and stay faithful to the basic principles and the treaty. This is always, the devil is always in the detail, you know that. So this means that we need to be vigilant and to make sure that this DNA of the policy remains at its core. Not because we are stuck in the past, but because I don't think that anybody who has looked into things a bit more in depth will question that it's the regional and local level that needs to be responsible for its fate and given the tools and the means for its fate. And that you can't say, I'll have a climate targets or other targets, or a prosperous Europe or growth and jobs if these are not created somewhere, and they're created on the ground. They're not created in ministries. So we will be working on that.
Thank you very much. More questions? One over there, and then one over here.
Thank you for your presentation. My name is Ekaterina, and I'm a PhD student from High School of Economics University. And you know that digitalization is becoming one of the most important factors to consider, not only in the policy, but also in the ordinary life. So my question is, which digital factors do you consider to adapt or to improve the European Union cohesion policy? Thank you.
Thank you. Question over here.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi. First of all, I'm very honored to hear you. I'm also from Cyprus, and I'm very honored. My name is Themis Christophidou, and I come from a bit far away from the Joint Research Center in Seville of the European Commission. And my question has to do with, I'll read it because I'll be confused in the end. Like, the main idea is that how can we ensure that the relationship between regions and these kind of funds doesn't end up being a reliant relationship, that in the end, these funds work solely as predictable transfers rather than funds for actual growth and change. Thank you.
So, Themis, please go ahead.
On your question on digital, I'm not sure I understood the question. You asked which digital factors we will address. Andres, you understood? You can help me? I didn't understand the question. You see, a PhD student asks two difficult questions.
No, it was, if I understood it correctly, it was mainly about the challenges that are being posed by the digital transformation for economic development, especially in many areas that don't have the capacity to compete in the digital world, if I understood correctly.
You know, you speak the same language. So we have invested quite a lot already in the previous 20 years, I would say, in the digital transformation of Europe, and we will continue to do so. Of course, it's a very big challenge, and it's, you know, starts from schools. We saw during COVID that that the fact that schools were not digitalized enough or at all, actually, was a very big challenge to how to deal with closing the schools and keeping kids at home. There are countries, including this one, that put the class lessons on the national TV in order for the kids to be able to follow a class, because there was no other way. And of course, it was a creative way of doing it, but we have to go a bit further than that. So we are working a lot with all countries and regions. It's a priority for most of them, I would say for all of them, to use cohesion policy to invest in digitalization. And it's also a priority for the EU. The big priorities are, of course, environment sustainability, the digital transition, the demographic transition. So these are the big priorities on which we are working on, and we will continue. The issue is more how to find a way to channel the funding to the right level and to the right place in order not to leave black holes in the EU in terms of also digitalization. So that's where we are focusing on, and that's why your work here as an association, as academics, as scientists, is important to keep us focused on not forgetting parts of Europe and leave places behind. Now, your question, well, it's a pity that somebody from the European Commission asks me this, but, you know, I will have to answer it. So I do not see a risk of regions and cities becoming permanent beneficiaries of structural funds, because nobody wants to be receiving charity, and cohesion policy is not a charity policy. It's a development policy, and every region and city that has been smart enough to use it intelligently have benefited enormously and have been transformed. And being in Seville is an example of transformation through cohesion policy. Then we have these cases that the professor here is very much working on, the development trap and so on. These are also regions that have initially benefited, or that didn't need to benefit because they were at a good place, but with the different transformations that have taken place across the world, they have found themselves from being front runners of, for example, coal-producing region to being a laggard. So these are the kind of issues that we are helping address. But this is not a policy that subsidizes people as charity. It's a policy that is there to bring growth, and once the growth has been achieved, they don't need us anymore. And once they don't need us anymore, they move on their own, and they work with banks and loans and so on. So they don't all continue to benefit forever.
Okay, we have time for one last round of questions, and I would like well, there's one over here, but I'd like the last question to come also from the back. Let's start with the rector over here.
Thank you very much for your inspiring talk. Well, I'm Christina Koulouri, professor of history. This is my main identity. So I think that you would agree that the main threat to cohesion policy is inequalities and exclusivity. So what kind of inequalities would you prioritize as the main threats to cohesion policy? Gender, class, ethnic, or what else? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And any question from the back? 1, 2. Any question from the front? 1, 2. Yes, Thomas, please, go ahead.
Thank you very much. The state must be stable, and European cohesion changes.
Thomas, you need to introduce yourself.
Thomas Dentinho from the Azores. And my question is whether if a more stable cohesion policy and then being flexible at the local level would be more effective in terms of development rather than to change every time. So to allow changes and innovation in the use of the funds locally and not bottom-up. And that's the question, because I agree that in fact it is creating, on one hand, in some regions, some dependency, and it's difficult to, and at the same time, it's mining democracy, because the good politicians, as you've said, is the one that catches more money from Europe, and not necessarily the one that manages the money from the local contributors. And so I think there is something that must be revised. Otherwise, the European, as you said, some regions, in fact, catch up, are developed, in Ireland, for instance, but others continue to be lagged. And we must, eventually the mistake is ours from the science, but there is something that must be done differently. And I wonder if this movement from these changes top-down are better for development. The Azores receive money from the state, and this money is effective in terms of generation of employment. The money that comes from Europe does not show any robust sign in terms of creation of employment, for instance. And that's a signal that something eventually, in my file, must be changed. Thank you.
Do I understand well that you tell me that top-down is better? That's what because there's also a lot of wind. That's what you're telling me.
No, I understand. What I'm saying is that it's good to have European funds with some simple criteria of the GDP or whatever, or the Sustainable Development Goals, but then the initiative, the innovation must come eventually inspired by us, but from the local people, not necessarily from the top down. Like we have a good idea, the place-based policies by Andreas, and then this idea comes out. And it is the same people that are receiving the money. They adapt. It's the same institutions that are receiving the money, and the effect local is not big. At least it's not so big as it is from a more stable fund that there is innovation locally. Thank you.
First of all, to the rector. Well, which type of inequality? I think all these type of inequalities are important to address, and for me, what is important for my job is to give people the same opportunity to grow. And in a way, I had the same attitude when I was doing education and I was dealing with Erasmus. And I was arguing that Erasmus, which is a very good program, is still a program for the few, because you still need to have a family that supports you in order to do an Erasmus. It's not very easy to do an Erasmus just because you get the EU funding. You need to have a safety net from your family. So I was looking at it, how are we going to make it more accessible? So my logic remains the same. It's about giving the people the possibility to grow. So whether it is class, whether it is gender, whether it is origin and so on, I think what is important is that people have the opportunity. On a small personal note, I came to this country when I was 18, and I was a refugee from Cyprus, from Famagusta. So my family couldn't send me to the UK or the US, which was at the time for Cyprus the thing to do, you know. So I got with a quite competitive exam into the Athens Polytechnic, and this country offered me a top-class education for free. This, for me, is something that I will never forget, because I know that I would never be where I am now had this not been the case. There was no way I would have become a civil engineer without having this education that was offered generously and to everybody. So it's about offering people the possibility, and they're not those that need a bit of help, those that need more and those that need enormous help. And I think it's important to differentiate. It's not equitable, in my opinion, to say, I give everybody 10% of their studies and then they can, no. Because my daughter, she may get the 90% from elsewhere, but somebody else's won't. So we have to make our best to differentiate where the needs are. And so to make the example for regional and local level, it's again about making tailor-made support where it's needed for the needs they have. Some areas have more needs in education. Some regions have fallen behind because of their industry that now is not anymore relevant or is polluting. So the tailor-made is very important. To come to the question, I think that it's important to see that there is a high risk that one day the member states will say, if I'm going to send my money to Brussels and get it back in a different form, I can also keep my money and do things on my own. So the added value of the European Union has to be very clear and very visible. But for the regions and the local authorities, to a large extent, for a big majority, it is very visible because we're not dictating top-down what they should do. At the same time, the taxpayer wants to know where their money goes somehow. So for me, a sort of menu that says the European Union as a whole needs to become more sustainable, more competitive, more inclusive. So whatever you want to do at local level that serves these purposes, this menu, is well done. Now, if you want to do things that don't serve this menu, sorry, you'll do it with your money. But I also feel that we're risking that in the next round, the following 7 years, people will say, but I can also keep my money and serve my needs on my own. But there won't be much European anything anymore, slowly, if you do this. So there needs to be this added value, and I think that we have strong arguments where the added value lies.
Okay, thank you very much. We're coming to the end, but I cannot resist using my privilege as moderator.
I was afraid of this.
To ask the last question. Don't be afraid, because I'm not going to go into difficult questions. Maybe it's the most difficult because it's an easy one. But you ended up your fantastic overview of the past, the present, and the future of cohesion, telling us how we can work with you, the European Union, through the European Commission. But my question is not how can we work with you. What is it that we, as the ERSA community, as the regional science community, do to society that we are not doing at the moment? And how can we, in that respect, also help you do your work better?
Well, I think that one needs to speak to people with a simpler language and find a way to touch their concerns. So as scientists, as academics, you have here a collective intellectual wealth that needs to be used also to go on the ground and discuss with people their fears, their needs, their concerns, and try to see with them how their concerns can be translated into conceptualized in order to help them make their fears, turn them into opportunities, translate their concerns into projects. So you have a lot of intellect, but it shouldn't stay in conference halls and in lecture rooms. It should be translated into simpler language and go and talk to people that maybe are not, don't have 3 PhDs each, but their concerns and their fears for the future of their children are very acute, and they need to somehow be helped to turn them into something more operational so that they solve problems.
Well, thank you very much. The advice for all of you, get out, and we should get out of our ivory towers, do research that has real bearings on real life, and find solutions to the problems of people. It's been a... Oh. Oh.
This is a small present from Pantheon University. Thank you very much. We are proud of you.
And, okay. No, let me just finish because I have to thank her. So, no, I just wanted to, it's been a real privilege and an honor to have Themis Christophidou. I hope that we have used your time well. We haven't abused your time. And I hope that through this dialogue, we continue the collaboration that would last for a long, long time. And I'd like to thank you and from the European Regional Science Association and the whole community for being here, for taking your time, and also for delivering such a good speech. So please join me in this good round of applause.
Thank you, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Dennis, come here.
Thank you to Andres, who always manages to turn things into a very succinct conclusion. And next time, I promise I'll work with you, but next time, easier questions, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being with us. This discussion will be continued tomorrow. Tomorrow, the opening session will take place at 9 o'clock at Pantheon University. It will be a plenary session, and we will continue what we just started, future prospects of cohesion policy. So tomorrow, see you all at Pantheon University, 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.